Hello, family. Welcome back to Dark Woke, your direct link to all things politics, comedy, and culture. I am your host, Janaya Future Khan, champ yapper and frequent nuisance in the activist and comedy worlds. Let's get dialed in. But just before we jump, Dark Woke is a self-funded, self-produced show. We're on Patreon/Dark Woke. I am so grateful for all the support and for you just taking the time to listen. Okay, we are coming off a big win. We're coming off a huge cultural win in the Super Bowl, and I am avoiding my natural inclination to minimize these cultural events. Because here's the thing. I woke up on Monday morning, and a lot of bad white men were upset. They were furious about the halftime show. And I took immense satisfaction from that, because imagine being so cozy, right? Which is not the reality for the vast majority of white men in America, by far. But imagine this subset of pundits and yappers, right? The podcast bros, they get up and they're furious about it. It's boring, they said. It's drivel, they said. It was just the guy talking, they said, because high art just flies over those fading hairlines, which handsome on good men. I like that. It's high testosterone. It's manly. But on those guys, no. No. Because beauty comes from within, and your deeds are showing, my nigga. It was just, they were so angry, and I thought, okay. On one hand, I want to be like, this is what you get mad about? And instead, I'm like, no. I'm taking immense satisfaction at anything. It was too black. It was too black. It was too controversial. It didn't have enough sprinkles, simple bitch. It didn't have, did you want some fireworks? Would that have helped? Right? Oh, no, wait. You don't like when a bunch of black dudes, right, wearing red, white, and blue get into a formation that suggests that the entire identity of America was built on the backs of black people. You don't like that. It bothers you. And it is just American history. That is how American capital came to be. That's how it came to be one of the greatest superpowers in the world. It was because of enslavement, chattel slavery. And, one thing I am seriously irritated about is how we're right back into the 90s. I just saw this clip and, there it is. I want to go confirm what I saw was true. So I get on to X, and there's Elon Musk retweeting infograph, which we are going to be assaulted by for the next 4 years. It's either going to be the most crucial information you've ever read or the most stupid, useless bullshit. And we get to decide on this carousel. We can't get off on which one it's going to be. But in this case, Elon Musk was retweeting something somebody shared that said that welfare is responsible for the destruction of the black community. And I'm not even going to bother disputing the racist, presumption there, but the irony is what I'm interested in. Imagine that the biggest welfare queen in the world, Elon Musk, who literally exists on government subsidies, so much so addicted to the teat that he had to move into the fucking titty itself. You know what I mean? You're the ultimate, you exist, your entire existence is subsidized. And you want to talk shit about welfare? And let me be clear. Yes, there are obvious, it's like, if you can cut down black radicalism, black activism, black liberation theory, right? Which is why it keeps coming up in the culture, DEI, critical race theory, right? Identity politics, woke, all of these things. If you can cut down blackness on a cultural level, you can ensure that systemic change doesn't happen. And that's kind of the struggle that we're in, because when it comes to black folks, we have had so much success in the cultural realm and less so in the systemic, and they're terrified of that. So every opportunity to minimize that, we're going to see it. And I am so annoyed by the fact that this is where we are. But we shan't undermine our wins. And with that, I saved this for this episode. Yes, I did know that somebody on that stage last night, right? Yes. Well, I'm recording in the middle of the night. So yes, last night. But on Sunday, that a man had pulled out a flag, a Palestinian flag that said, Palestine, said Sudan on it as well. And I was really nervous that he was going to experience jail time. And I was like, all right, let's get that bail fund going. But he didn't. And I'm really glad. And I thought, okay, let's start this episode here because there have been updates on this Trump situation. He says this thing offhand. We're going to get into that in a second. But let's keep these fucking wins going. Here is Zul Kwarnan Nantambu talking about pulling out that flag and why he did it. He's speaking to an Al Jazeera anchor, and I'm going to drop you right into it. It's fucking awesome. It's going to get you fired up. It's exactly what we need.
I felt I didn't have a choice because I was elected to be a part of the halftime show, and when I saw what my position was, it was a great stage, a large stage, and we know as a practicing Muslim, our Prophet Muhammad teaches us if you see a wrongdoing or you're aware of a wrongdoing, you must stop it with your hands. And if you can't stop it with your hands, stop it with your tongue. Speak out against it. And if you can't stop it with your tongue, try to stop it with your heart, meaning pray about it. And we know that's the weakest of faith. So I had an opportunity on a grand scale to bring awareness or speak out against a wrong of our Muslim brothers and sisters, because we know if one part of the body is hurting, all of the body is hurting. This ummah is one body. So I didn't want to face my creator and not with a sign of weak faith when I knew I had an opportunity to show I didn't have weak faith.
So let me ask you, do you have any cultural or family links to either Palestine or Sudan, or was this purely a gesture of humanity and support for those affected by these wars?
Humanitarian. I'm a humanitarian and I'm a Muslim. So we're spiritually connected in Islam, and we're human. We're connected with empathy for humanity because we're all human beings, God's creation, and they're oppressed. And we know God answers the prayers of the oppressed. They are suffering. They're treated with injustice, and it's on a wide scale, and nobody is really giving it the light that it should get, at least working toward a change. And I wanted to show the solidarity to those afflicted by this and their families and loved ones, that they're being remembered here in America. And they're being remembered here in America, not just by me, but by others. And it'll strengthen all of our faith. It was not about a countryman. It was more about spiritual.
Okay, let me jump in and ask you, do you think the protest or your protest is likely to damage your career? Are you worried you may find it difficult to get work again, given what happened?
When he gets asked that, he gives a smile that is so like the one that Kendrick gave the camera when he called out Drake, Drizzy. Nobody was watching the Super Bowl harder than that guy's lawyers, for sure. Terrible time for biracials. Great time for tiny niggas. Let's go.
I trust in God, brother. I wanted to pass that. I fear God more than I fear man. I fear loss of wealth. I fear loss of anything else.
Yes. Okay. So I'm gonna just fast forward this because it's like I love that stuff, but I'm like, all right. But then towards the end, this question comes.
The NFL says you'll now be banned for life from all NFL stadiums, from all events. What's your response to the ban, and would you still have done it if you'd known the risks?
The risk of a ban? I was afraid I was going to get sniped by a Secret Service's bullet. I can watch a football program on the television if I choose to, sir.
But one thing I absolutely love about Black American Muslims is the intonation, and I have picked it up too. Like you know how Angela Davis and Baldwin, they have this cadence, and it's very unique, and it's because so many Black scholars of that generation were educated in Europe, and went through all these exchanges or whatever, and of course the time. But it's just so funny because the inflection. I'm like, yes, brother, yes.
And I don't like large crowds anyway.
Okay, all right.
Isn't that a brilliant answer, right? Isn't that a brilliant answer? He doesn't give a damn. I can watch the games from home, and I don't like crowds anyway. And I think it's that ease, right? That, yeah, this was just the right thing to do. That's it. This was the right thing to do. And so I did it. And, you know, seeing and dealing with everything that we're going through, I was reminded of this time because, of course, the rhetoric and the language and everything else. And I was like, oh, this feels like 2013. This feels like 2013, right? This was at a time before the Black Lives Matter movement, the pure one, right, had really consolidated and turned into anything. But there was this feeling something wasn't right inside. And I know that some of you are feeling that, and you're carrying it around at different times of the day as we're dealing with our, you know, our own little trials and tribulations. And you just, something's not right. And that is the most, it's the hard thing to know. It's a hard thing to carry, but it's one of the most profound, beautiful things, because it means that you are still connected to the human condition, and it's okay if it's on sometimes and sometimes it's not. You need that reprieve. He enjoyed taking action. We need that release. Just know that action looks different in different times, right? At that point in time, I was collecting information in 2013. I needed an outlet. It is that need that drives the creation of it, and never undermine what you do. Because again, that whole movement started with a fucking Facebook post. Do you know what I mean? A Facebook post. And then somebody thought, oh, I'll slap a hashtag on these last 3 words. And I'll tell you something. When I saw the words Black Lives Matter, I was like, oh, really? Like it was, I was like, give me a Black Panther, like, roar. But there was something really remarkable about those 3 words, the power and that vulnerability. Very gay, what I just said. Very fago. But if you couldn't say Black Lives Matter, it immediately revealed who you were and what you believed. And there was something really profound in that. And this moment in Gaza, this time, our attention to Palestine and with this administration, it's bringing all of our contradictions up. It's why the left is so fractured right now. But again, fractured is not broken, right? Our pieces are scattered, but there's a lot of contradictions in our movements, and we're becoming more and more aware of that. So what is the current situation with Trump and Gaza? Because he started out with this very offhand way, right? It's like off the cuff suggestion. We'll just occupy Gaza. It wasn't the Gaza Strip. It was not pre-approved. He just was riffing. But now he seems to be doubling down on it. I want to very briefly, in case anyone is still having some doubts about the ceasefire and Hamas, these are words that were tossed around very casually. And I'm going to play this very, very brief clip of Noam Chomsky, one of my faves. Some people feel a way about him, but then I look into what those people say, and it's annoying. But this is him dismissing a lot of the rhetoric, the hullabaloo around Hamas failing, Hamas breaking ceasefire deals. And why is because right now in the news, and we're about to get into it, but right now in the news, right now, it just broke, right? That Hamas is pulling back on releasing the hostages, which would be a violation of their ceasefire deal. So let's actually get into that for a moment. But right before, let me play my favorite little, you know what? He's also my matzo ball. Here you go. So again, he's talking to folks, and we're immediately jumping in. The context is Hamas and Israel.
Hamas are not my friends. I don't like what they do. But they've been doing not much. What they've been doing is what I described. Starting in November 2005, an agreement was reached between Israel and the Palestinian Authority, then not Hamas. Israel completely rejected it, and Hamas lived up to it, not a single rocket. Then came the January election, and Israel intensified its attack with U.S. support. After that, there are repeated attacks, Israeli attacks, and ceasefires agreements. Every ceasefire agreement is approximately like what I read. What happens is Israel completely dismisses and disregards it, maintains the siege in violation of the ceasefire, increases the violence. Hamas lives up to it, and Israel officially accepts that. Agrees to that, until some escalation of Israeli violence leads to a Hamas reaction and then another episode of mowing the lawn. That's been going on since November 2005. Hamas is not a nice organization. They do a lot of rotten things. That's for the Palestinians to worry about. But it has nothing to do with us. If we were supporting Hamas, nothing, zero. If we were supporting Hamas, it would be our problem. But we're not. And what they do is for Palestinians to deal with. What we deal with is what we are doing, which is supporting massive criminal operations all over the region, blocking peace. That's for us to be concerned about.
And that is essentially how, right? Like, I don't care for the whole, that's for Hamas is for Palestinians to deal with because, you know, and I would email Noam if I could, because he actually responded to emails very regularly from people. But I would contest the point that that's for Palestinians to deal with because Netanyahu cut down any other option, cut down the Palestinian Authority, and literally handpicked Hamas. They were the most malleable, the most, you know, easily manipulated. They had the, you know, the most overlaps with Hezbollah, etc. Essentially, they appeared in every way, shape, and form the weakest choice to Netanyahu. That doesn't speak for how Palestinians felt, but they were denied having any elections since like 2008. So, which is a long time ago. And it doesn't feel like it now. But it was very much a long time ago. So why am I bringing all of this up now? Why do we need to pay attention at this moment? Because Trump, well, you know what? Why don't I just play it for you so you can hear it yourself? This raggedy, overly tanned fucking Muppet bitch, this raggedy bitch. Oof. Listen to how he's talking. Listen to his choice of words, okay? So this is Trump. This just happened, right? Today. He's on Fox News and it's a special interview. Here we go.
Build beautiful communities for the 1.9 million people. We'll build beautiful communities, safe communities. Could be 5, 6, could be 2, but we'll build safe communities a little bit away from where they are, where all of this danger is.
So he's talking about his plan to develop the Gaza Strip and remove Palestinians and Gazans from their homeland.
In the meantime, I would own this. Think of it as
In the meantime, I would own this. I'm doing this we would remove them from the bad parts.
Real estate development for the future. It would be a beautiful piece of land.
Would the Palestinians
no
have the
big
right
money
to return?
spent. No, they wouldn't because...
Okay, that right there. Would the Palestinians have a right to return? No. Then listen to his justification.
They're going to have much better housing, much better... In other words, I'm talking about building a permanent place for them. Because if they have to return now, it'll be years before you could have it's not habitable. It will be years before it could happen. I'm talking about starting to build, and I think I could make a deal with Jordan. I think I could make a deal with Egypt. You know, we give them billions and billions of dollars a year.
This shit right here, let me evoke a little Cat Williams. This shit right here, nigga, this shit right here. Do you want to know what this reminded me of? Christian missionary talk, right? It reminded me of justifications for genocide against indigenous peoples. It reminded me of just the language that was used for justification of chattel slavery in the United States. And I want to remind folks that slavery, the Atlantic slave trade, was just a matter of where the boat stopped. Okay, so it's true of the Caribbean diaspora as well, which I think we often forget. And no, not just because I'm Trinidadian and Jamaican. Darn it. But this is the language that was used. We are doing this for them. They can't help themselves. They're going to live in this rubble. We are intervening. It is a kindness. We're offering them a kindness. We're offering them a service. This language, it's condescending. It's ugly. It's insidious. And it goes right back to the core manifest destiny identity of America, but supercharged with an oligarchical rule. This is about making as much money as possible for a select few. And I want to follow that trail of Kushner. And so the question that we need to keep driving is you're going to forcibly remove Palestinians from their homes. And he mentioned, Jordan and Egypt, right? We subsidize them. He just said, right, the New York Times just reported today, Trump says he could cut aid to Jordan and Egypt over Gaza development plan. So the president turned up the pressure on these two nations to agree to his plan for them to house the Palestinian population of Gaza, and said that Palestinians would not have the right to return to the territory. Do you hear? This is how you treat indigenous populations: genocide and displacement. This is no longer by proxy. America is doing it directly. And who would do that? You're not going to be able to use American soldiers to do that. That's not going to happen. So that means that you're giving the green light to Netanyahu and to Israel. So now we go full circle. Why is Hamas suddenly hesitant on letting the hostages go? Right? That was the question that I had started this whole thing with. Because of Donald Trump and his threats, right? Because that's what leverage does Hamas have in this that just remove everything that we know about Hamas in general, right? I keep adjusting. I'm wearing my BFF's PJs. She's going to be so mad when she hears this, but there's so much space in the chest. And I was like, why is this stretch? And I just realized it's because she has titties. Like, she's got knockers and I got doorbells. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm like, it's so airy. It just keeps slipping around and feels funny, you know? And, oh my God, we're talking about something serious. Okay. This is like, they're hesitant, right? Like, just remove everything we know about Hamas. What leverage could they possibly have? Not like the boring loser Hakeem Jeffries from yesterday's episode, but what leverage could they possibly have to stop this? Trump is directly endangering hostages who have up to this point been safe for some fucking money and some goddamn Trump towers in fucking Gaza. Good luck, my nigga. Then they love that land. They love that land the way that only people who are from there can love land. I've seen it myself. And I've also seen how Israel partakes in ecological terror. Ecological terror, as in, oh, you could grow things on this land? We're going to put all these foreign pine trees here just so that Palestinians can't grow anything here. Destroy, bring in foreign entities, but it makes sense when low-key you're one to begin with. It just didn't have to be this way. It never had to be this way. We are all living in we're having to grapple with the choices that people made decades before we even fucking got here. And the reason why there is this impasse is because Hamas has listed a series of complaints, right? From delaying the return of displaced people to continuing open fire on them, from failing to allow the entry in certain types of humanitarian aid. Hamas has legitimate gripes, right? But a key thing in one of their official statements on Telegram, the group called its announcement a, quote, warning to Israel, and said it would give mediators ample time to pressure the occupation into fulfilling its obligations. So that already was a tense situation. Now throw in the fact that you got Donald Trump, the president of the United States, saying that they are going to forcibly remove Gazans from their homeland, try to strong arm them into Egypt or Jordan, so that you can develop Gaza into a real estate haven. Oh my, this is just as bad as we fucking thought it was going to be. I can't stand, this is why these cultural wins, whether cultural, political, it doesn't matter. We got to hold on to them, and we've got to build that momentum, because these guys have all of it right now, or had. And our folks need us to show up. You need me to show up. I need you to show up, and we're doing that. We're doing that. We've got everything against us, and I cannot tell you how impressed and proud I am that people are still, they still care. We still care. And that is the hardest thing to do when the world is telling you on every fucking level that you don't matter, that you're not worth anything. But you know what? If you weren't worth everything, the richest, most powerful people in the world wouldn't be trying to stamp you out. Just remember that. That all, like, we had one cultural win and they lost their fucking minds. I'm looking forward to systemically dismantling their consolidated base over the next 4 years. So right now, we're going to keep following this story. It is important, but we got to keep asking that question rather than say we're outraged, right? This is an opportunity for us to ask people if this still comes up, when it comes up, how it comes up. Yeah, but how's he going to do it? You think that's cool? Use this. I'm like so mad at Grimes right now too. Cause I'm like, bitch, he was right there. Bitch, he was right there. Anyway, could have taken out one of them. Take him out to dinner, of course, is what I meant. Take him out to dinner. All of these people are bad actors. I'm going to hit the question of the day because I have a feeling. It's because I know that it ties into everything that we've been talking about here. So why don't I hit that? It feels like a good moment.
This is Willie from LA. I love your show. Thank you so much for everything you do, seriously. I just wanted to say one thing I've been noticing is just that I feel like there are a lot of stories coming out, like you're talking about that. I think that Trump followers, Trump himself, would really be upset about, and they're just not getting posted. In the accounts at least that I'm seeing, like people are not really posting about them, and I think that, like for example, the plane crashes being connected to the FAA fires, which is directly connected to SpaceX, Elon, the DEI, people getting fired from the DEI cancellation, affecting white women greatly. Like, I feel like that kind of stuff needs to be blasted out on the political accounts that I'm following, not just like ICE raids and stuff, even though that's so important. Like, the Trump base, just unfortunately, I don't think they're going to care about about ICE raids, Trump raids, because they voted for that, but they will, I think they'll care about the plane crashes and stuff, and I feel like maybe if we really blast that out enough, I don't know, it can help it get on the news, or, I'm just curious what you think about this, how can we get these things, possibly out there more, and, get beyond maybe this tunnel vision that we're all in, and get these stories that their supporters are going to care about out there. But yeah, thanks again for doing everything you're doing. And you're definitely a rock in all of this. And yeah, peace to everybody.
Okay, Willie, first of all, you fucking rock. And something you're saying, you're just reminding me, we really can't take what people know for granted. The white women being the biggest beneficiaries of DEI has been something like, I've known for years. It was one of my talking points at one point. I was like, you bitches need to stand the fuck up and defend this shit. And it was like, think around like when there were all these attacks on affirmative action. Right. And then, and then the other thing that I really took from what you said was, talking to people about the things that directly matter to them. Like, can we mobilize bases of people based on touching on the issues that directly impact them. And I think we've seen success with that. Like even the Democrats have seen success with that at different ways. Switching to what they still haven't really done because the rot of the establishment Dems has been, but the rest of the Dems are doing it, which is like speaking from economic populism and taking really broad strokes with that. And instead, we keep getting into these, well, it's because you guys are identity politics and, all this nonsense. But I really love this idea. The thing I will say is I have consistently underestimated how keen poor middle class to poor white folks will vote against their own interests just at the mere thought of other people doing well. I have spent my life underestimating how committed people were to their own suffering. It's been very confusing to me. And still, I think we have to keep throwing shit at the wall and keep trying, because you never know when, like, something that it's kind of like social media, right? You'll put out, like a reel or something, and nobody cares, and you thought it was fucking dope, and you're like, okay, I'll just go kill myself. Cool, thanks so much, everybody. But then, like, a month later, that shit pops off. It just goes, and it's you never know when lightning strikes, and so we have an obligation, I think, to put as much information out there as we possibly can, and not go into the nihilistic. Well, they know. They ought to know. I want to play this one clip, which is highly unusual at this stage of the show, because it was a story that I always need more time. But there was a story that on the farmers who fronted money across America. A lot of these farmers were Trump voters, and they fronted money for seeds and resources, etc., and were supposed to get that money back. But guess who fucking froze federal funding? So let me just play this clip really quickly. Please forgive me for this late clip in action, but I think it's a good one. It's from @head in the office, but I don't know these guys, but I like what they said. So here we go.
Because of Trump's funding freeze, there are farmers who are not getting the subsidies they were promised in the Inflation Reduction Act, even though they've already spent the money and they're waiting on their federal reimbursement. And they're not blaming Trump for it. Yes. Trump is the reason they could go broke and lose.
And so one of the things that we do know for Trump is that, in his base, and people in general, but especially for Trump's base, is that there is a political incoherence. When people have, when they have internalized something as their core identity, any pushback on it is an attack on the person. So the way to approach this always is to be curious and ask a lot of questions, because the vast majority of people today have assimilated politics into their core identity with obstinacy. So there's not a lot of flexibility there. So this isn't a don't do it. This is we have got to be willing to engage people who don't share the same beliefs. Our job is to try to understand some of those people. That's not everybody's job. I got the bandwidth for it because I find it endlessly entertaining. So I think it's always about finding what our best role is. But let me just keep playing this right quick.
Lose their farm. Yeah. But they're not blaming Trump for it, even though he's the one that cut off the spending. In fact, they'll say shit like, we need to realize that it's not us versus each other, it's us versus the rich or whatever. And it's like, dog, the people you voted for are doing this to you.
Literally, the richest man in the world is the president.
And he's cut off cancer research funding, and then didn't even know he did it, according to like what he said on X. But I'm like, low-key, you knew, you just don't give a fuck. Or the idea that it could have done that doesn't matter. Like, you would eliminate studies on cancer research, studies on, heart. And that was the thing that made humanity redemptive. We have made massive advancements in medicine. These niggas was using leeches back in the day. You could have had a headache and then died from fucking syphilis. I don't know if leeches carry that, but because I don't know a lot about leeches, but I do know that they don't heal shit that you got. What? We didn't have aspirin and shit.
Like, generally,
whites had scurvy all the time. Don't forget, that is still a very good, we should use it more often. It's a good line.
agree, like, yeah, it's us versus them, it's the rich versus the working class, but I know you're not saying it in the way that I say it. You know what I mean? Because you voted for Trump, a billionaire,
exactly,
with Elon Musk, a billionaire. Like, whatever.
You trust the richest man in the world to protect you?
And so, anyway, they yap about the right things, which is like, yeah, this is nuts. Like, why would you ever let the richest man in the world, like, quote, save you? He's gutted every kind of protection and entitlement that you have based on your tax dollars and keeps saying, oh, you eliminated this spending and that, but no one's ever going to see that fucking money but them. Anyway, to your point, I think one of the things that I'm most keen on, and you know, I'll wrap here, Willie, and everybody who's listening to that, who heard that amazing question and prompt, really, a call to action, is we aren't consolidated on the left. And so even as we think about engaging things, I think we've got, you know, there's this right force, right? The force on the right. And then there's this force on the left, right? So first of all, we're not consolidated on the left. That's number one. But in between, there are far more people, tens of millions of people who in America who just want to live their fucking lives and who just want shit to be normal. And that's the population of people that I love. It's middle America. It's partly why I got into comedy, was understanding how to translate things for the masses, because we do run the I think one of the issues on the left is that we take for granted what people know. And so a lot of our political education needs to be on the left. Like I was like, oh yeah, we got to but I was we got to deal with the right, and you know, we do got to break those bitches up 100%. Bunch of dickheads. But I have taken for granted how little political education we have on the left. It's not cohesive. And people will couch their insecurities in social justice rhetoric. That was a banger line I just gave. Woof. Right? And or will use morality as a bludgeon. Right? Because they actually can't engage in political debate or dialogue because they don't know. We're not a reading population anymore. And so I think that this, you know, white women being the greater recipients of DEI, or, you know, the increase in plane crashes, like those were things that I did see, that, you know, but they were only in certain subsections of the left, and really only on X. And it doesn't really matter because it wasn't reaching anybody in the manosphere. And I think comedy is a great space to do that. But we have got to get our shit together. Like, we don't have non-negotiables. I think you've heard me say this a trillion times before, but you know, we are exceptional at coming together against the thing on the left, but we don't agree what we're fighting for. We never agree on what we're fighting for. And I think it's the most unpopular shit that we need to be fighting for. Women's rights, because women's rights it's all about body agency, bodily autonomy. That's going to fold in trans rights and everything else. Labor rights, and applying Black liberation theory. I think one of the actualized ways of doing that, of course, is like voter rights, etc. And but we got to figure out what our non-negotiables are, because when you think about with Black rights and everything else, it extends across all racial identities. We do need to have much more investment in indigenous sovereignty as a principle, right? Even if it's not land back movements, because it's not necessarily the right time, then we build so that that time does come. Like I know things are so bad, right? They're so fucked. So unbelievably fucked. But it also means that we have more space, more opportunity, more to dream, to think, to reimagine a world vastly different from this one. Because it is, we talk about the empire breaking, but it's like, what comes next? We get to decide that too. We can't opt out of that. And we have such a fucking schizophrenic relationship to power across the left. Let me tell you something. Cultural presence does not equal systemic power. I'm thrilled about the Super Bowl. Fucking thrilled, right? About that halftime show. But we need systemic power, and the left, and particularly queers on the left, are way too comfortable just as being able to criticize power and never aspiring to it. And frankly, it's embarrassing at this point. And I saw how uneducated we were politically with the debates about whether or not to vote in Gaza and the righteousness. And now, of course, a lot of people are throwing that back in everybody's face. And again, it wouldn't have changed a single thing in the outcome of the election. But this is the last thing I'll say because I'm yapping too much, but there's something that I haven't really named, and I don't want to spend too much time on it, but there was a gleefulness that I saw on a lot of people on the left when it came to mocking, belittling, taking shots at Kamala Harris, right? I don't see that same energy for Donald Trump and Elon Musk. And it concerns me, right? And it wasn't coming from Black people. It was coming from a lot of people of color and a lot of white folks on the left. That gleefulness is something I see that is really only reserved for mouthy women. Of course, that includes trans women. For me, it always does. And Black folks. And when you put those two things together, it's celebratory. They're not coming with that same energy for the people who are actually trying to kill us, right? I took it high level, which was people trying to figure out what the right thing to do was in the most hideously wrong, one of the greatest injustices, the greatest injustice of our lifetime. I would call Israeli apartheid the greatest injustice of our lifetime. It rendered me inarticulate for years, based off of what I saw. So we have got to get our shit together, and we can, and we will. But my God, fucking dream and never, ever, ever, ever belittle any of the ideas that you have, because look at the fucking idiots with shit for brains running the country. Oh my God. Ugh. Just like yuck, right? Never, ever, ever doubt what you are capable of or what we are capable of, because all we have to do is try. All we have to do is move. The only failure is nothing, doing nothing. And we have everything to gain. Everything. I'm disgusted, but I'm fucking charged the hell up. Let's go. All right. Okay, I did it. Look, I said I wasn't going to do it, and I did it anyway. God, shut up, Janaya. I just yap in these spacey PJs. Okay. I just want to say thank you so much for listening to Dark Woke. It means the world to me. This show really is a labor of love. New episodes drop every day of the week. We're available everywhere podcasts are. If you love Dark Woke, don't forget we're self-funded. We're at patreon.com/darkwoke. I want to hear from you. Drop your voice note questions to darkwokejfk@gmail.com. Shout out to KR and the JFK team. And shout out to you, the listeners that make it all